Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you may be doing so. I do say that intentionally, because all of those ways will, A, get you clued into what we're talking about, the many things affecting us in the borderland that's on our docket for the day, as well as leaving those comments if you do feel so inclined. Certainly not a requirement. We will have those phone lines open a little bit later in the program. If you are preferential to that particular outlet, hey, whatever works for you. Particularly if you're in that car, getting the video up there could be legal consequences, if not even just physical ones. Literally, stay safe. There's no reason to literally get yourself twisted into knots over this, because we're going to be in there all the ways that you can find us that are convenient for you all as we continue our mission to talk about all the things that happen here in the borderland that affect those of us who live right here, because no one else is going to talk about that stuff the way that we do. A lot of people tend to talk about us and how we think and how we feel, and well, I have over the years felt that those are inaccurate, to say the least. So let's get straight to the point here and get it for us here. So a lot of things on the mind here today. Among other things, got a few things coming to a head here, really. It may sound repetitive, but new information and new policies, new procedures, new responses coming out on a couple of major subjects here, particularly when it comes to the impending end of Title 42. A whole lot of response happening there, state, local, federal, international, technically, if you think about it, but really focusing on the responses on this side of the border here, as we have, again, more in-depth on what El Paso's Congresswoman talking about, particularly reimbursements, but even as there is more than ramping up of, well, state response as well as federal, talking about the resources maybe being needed in this area, as well as going to be talking about education, taking, I guess, a slight tangent from those really pressing subjects about, as we have those elections going on right now here in Texas, there are some being set up there, them having the good sense of mind to put them all on one ballot for November, an issue involving education, which we have talked about just a bit, so we'll get to that here as well. So a lot of stuff going on, and of course, El Paso City Manager, just to name a few important and pending issues in our region here today. So if you're tuned in, dropping those reactions over on the social media, we do appreciate Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. So if you want to tune in and chime in over there, you're more than welcome to over on the social media, because, well, that's one of the better ways you can leave your comments throughout the program here. And, well, I always like the comments that come in there. It's entertaining at the very least, and you can always add your 2 cents. Again, if that's your thing, that's your bag, you're available to, it's available for you. So let's get straight into some of these major issues. Just that whole city manager situation continues to evolve, it does seem. Coming in, not quite after our show yesterday, but long enough that we weren't able to really delve into it. But of course, we had our talk again, thanks to Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter at KFOX, for delving into and laying out the details she has been able to get into about the city manager contract and how that continues to evolve. Of course, just laying out the sequence of events here to make it clear, we did our interview yesterday morning in order to facilitate her being on in the air in the afternoon. She's got her own broadcast happening this time of day, so we don't begrudge that at all. But in between that time when we recorded and then our air, the mayor announced that he was going to veto that. And then again, towards the end of our show yesterday, not enough for us to get into, more details coming out about exactly what he is going to be doing about it, and some of his commentary, again, specifically saying that he filed the veto because he has unanswered questions about the contract. Novel idea. Saying specifically, quote, to our news partners at KFOX 14, I wanted to know the end of the contract, what's the payout in 2029, and what's going to happen at the end of the contract, and those questions have not been answered. I couldn't take action and say, yeah, I support something that I don't have full information on. So, again, if you want to see the full story over there from our news partners at KFOX 14, delving further into it. So, setting up this action, probably coming to the next head, I would fully expect in the next city council meeting. Now, of course, we do have the work sessions earlier in the week and then the actual city council meeting. So, this is not necessarily a nail in the coffin kind of situation. This is not I'm opposed to any action that way. So, this is why it's important to, understand, know these motivations. So, I know someone asked yesterday, where has the mayor been on this? It's interesting that this came not during the city council meeting itself here. I will agree with you on that point, but something being looked into it further. It says it also added that it wants to look at what that salary cap will be, what the new benefits will have, and the impact of the payout here, and more time spent on contracts and giving community members a chance to share their thoughts. Again, what a concept. people being input on this. So I think someone did mention yesterday the idea that maybe it was a little bit of the response and for some uproar, some relief, I guess I could say. I mean, I think some were happy about it. Someone had to have been happy about this, though not many of our callers, I will say, are, because of the idea of there being this massive contract. I mean, the payout has been quite the lightning rod of issue. So, and again, just a final quote there from Lisa when he talked with us, with our news partners. We have a current contract, and when we do something that big, we really need to take our time and look at it and have discussions to make sure what we're doing and we understand what we are doing. Can tend to fully agree with that idea and sentiment here. And that said that yesterday they hadn't spoken about it yet. So again, expect further action on this because, yeah, this is going to be probably significant issue going forward. And I was right in my estimation yesterday that this is just the second veto, the other one being on some bond issuances. So I think that there are some argument to be made about, campaign promises and things made of that nature whenever there's a difference between the campaign trail and then getting into office. But one of the things that was talked about, I mean, when it comes to being good stewards of public funds, tends to go in that direction, which is an action that I tend to support personally. I know there's a lot of opinions out there, and we'll certainly delve further into those here. And it's interesting because technically they're close to the actual ability to override. 6 city council members have to agree to override it, and 5 did vote in favor of the extension as it stood here. But with this increased pressure and a review coming to it, well, this leaves a few more question marks in place in the meantime here, and a lot more questions from the community. I mean, I'm hearing some echoing of what you all have even said in the mayor's comments there. So I guess I'm not terrifically surprised. I guess if there's anything I'm surprised about is that this action was actually taken as opposed to just kind of a hands up, well, the vote was already done, might as well move on with it and move forward here. So I don't know. Curious to know what y'all have to think about that as we open up those phone lines and, of course, get those comments coming in. Calls later, comments right now if you want to there. That's going to take us into our first break of the hour here right now. Coming up after the break again, talking about just switching gears ever so slightly before getting into more of the very pressing issues, just because we got those elections going on right now. Go vote if you haven't already. Remember, early voting does end this Friday. So don't think you can go and tackle it on the weekend if you're not then going to be available on Tuesday, actual election day. So that's the 24th. And we've got setting up November elections. But on the other side of the state line here, more being focused on, more they'll talk about, well, education funding, but of a different kind. So they'll talk about secondary as well as, well, primary education and post-secondary education, I should say. But what comes before that? So we'll get into that here as we talk with the Empowerment Congress of Doña Ana County. So we're, again, taking that break right now, coming out of this. More talk, more interviews, and more discussion about all the things affecting us here in the borderland. Again, if you want to chime in, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are the places to do that. Otherwise, social media, we've got it all online there for you. And, of course, phone lines a little bit later. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I love being able to plan out meals and think about what I got going on because as opposed to standing in front of the fridge wondering, okay, what the heck am I going to make now? Having a plan and the ability and making sure you got all the things in place and avoiding those last minute, I got to head to the store right now because I forgot umpteen items. It's nice. It's calming, but making sure it tastes good as opposed to I don't know what the heck I'm making. Let me give you a shortcut. Let me give you a little bit of a life hack to be able to deal with that. Our friends over at Enhanced Flavors have got quite the selection to really ramp up any recipe you're working on. If it's got salt, if it's got heat, it's got vinegar in it, you've got the recipe you need to really integrate their great selection of over 40 different extra virgin olive oils, flavored olive oils, and balsamic vinegars. Of course, there are extra virgin olive oils and olive oils coming from some of the best places in the world for those kind of things: Tunisia, Greece, Italy, and Spain. And their balsamic vinegars straight from the Modena province of Italy. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Doesn't count as balsamic. So they're getting the good stuff for you there. And some of their flavor combinations, you may not have even expected it. If you want to really spice up your life in the spicy sense of the term here, their roasted chili Tunisian Kamali olive oil is, well, it'll give you a kick in the pants. It's not the most spicy thing out there, but it can really take it to the next level, particularly marinades or just infusing it into the flavors as you build up your meals and, well, serve your family and the things that they will know you'll love. So check them out online, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com. Also out in the community. They'll be out with us at El Paso, the Sun City Craft Beer Festival this weekend. So look for them there, see their full selection and a whole lot more. Of course, always online at enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway North, northbound at the Ellerthorpe exit, a crash has got the left turn lane blocked. Memorial Highway, northbound on 375 at Rojas. Watch for road debris on the right shoulder. I-10 westbound at Trans Mountain, a stalled vehicle block in the left lane. And an accident on Schuster Avenue between Prospect and Mesa Street at Hawthorne is slowing traffic. You could take Oregon Street or River Avenue as alternates. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
It's a grand in your hand.
$1,000.
No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters.
We give you an honest break.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, Old West collectibles, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com.
Tim's taxes were an unbelievably tangled mess.
The IRS just wouldn't work with me. Then Optima got involved, and I mean, they really got involved.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
It's like having 2 lives, the one before Optima Tax and the one after.
Do what Tim did. Call Optima now for a free consultation. Call 800-783-8055. 800-783-8055.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show, even before we have the phone lines open like we do right now. Those social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can both catch the show, see the full video we put on with it, as well as get your comments in. John Brazelton bringing up, very topical for right now, saying El Paso needs to retire their current congresswoman in November. She represents the policies of the Biden administration, the wants and needs of her district. Besides, she doesn't have 5 years in Congress yet and won't receive a lifetime pension or lifetime medical insurance. So, certainly entitled to your opinion on elected officials here. It seems like you get a little personal there at the end. Just got to say here, and they won't get benefits. Like, again, entitled to your opinion entirely. Just, yeah, getting into it here. But, of course, we are in an election right now. Keep this straight, because even people I know that are very well informed and intelligent have been getting this a little bit mixed up. Yes, we just had an election. That was the constitutional amendment one for most of Texas here. We have one going on right now, the Texas primary runoff election, which we have both local and statewide officials on the ballot. So make sure you go out and vote for that one going on right now. But then, of course, we got November. All of this, for the one going on right now, sets up November. But even then, across the region, there is more votes that are going to be on that ballot. As much as there are, I encourage voting, and, I go out and vote every time. Having too many votes is a little, let's just call it problematic for actually getting people to the polls. So the way in New Mexico, Land of Enchantment, they're going to be doing it is having having some people actually voting on all these issues at once, both constitutional amendments for the New Mexico state constitution as well as that general election coming up here. So one of those interesting issues on it, so we've talked more than a little bit about what New Mexico has going on when it comes to education priorities and focuses. I mean, a few things, both in primary, secondary, and even post-secondary education have been going forward here based on, among other things, mineral wealth. But there's also another one that will be coming up there that may seem a little bit like a misnomer if you're not paying attention to it. So we're able to delve further into that and really get into what is going to be going on and what you need to know here. So we have an interview about that at this point. So here it goes. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Daisy Maldonado, Director of the Empowerment Congress of Doña Ana. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, because we have a decent chunk of our viewing area that exists in the Land of Enchantment, and there are this very own set of issues going on there. Among other things, we have some primary votes, but one thing that you are focusing on is actually looking a little bit further out because, well, comparisons are interesting here, but in the Land of Enchantment, you have some your own constitutional amendments and changes to that coming up here. But those, of course, are standardized on the November election itself here. And there's one specific issue that you all are focusing on when it comes to specifically education, right?
That's correct. Yes. We are part of the Vote Yes for Kids campaign, which is a group of organizations working to raise education and get information to the public about an upcoming constitutional amendment that New Mexico voters are going to have the chance to vote on come November. And what that would do would actually change and or add additional funding to public education.
So the item we're talking about on there, you all are describing as a, again, the Vote Yes for Kids campaign, again, as you mentioned here. But when looking on the ballot, people who vote, you saw what we were talking about for the Texas side of things, it's going to be similar in that kind of way of the description and how it's, well, pretty technical language for the most part, because the issue you are talking about will specifically be a change to the New Mexico Constitution, and I believe it's just numbered as such, that then describes how there will be a change of the distribution of New Mexico's permanent school fund, the land grant permanent fund, by 1.25% here. And so it might sound a little bit technical on the ballot, but the focus that you all have is a little bit more on then what the impact is here. So that's a kind of important part of getting the word out for you all then, is then getting the description, because looking at, again, the language that ends up on the ballot, it can seem pretty dry, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and you're actually absolutely correct. On the ballot, it will state amendment to the state constitution, Article 12, Section 7. And so it's really specific around how our public education is funded. But this additional funding actually will be specifically for early childhood education, as well as for utilized within the public education for at-risk youth. And it's important for the whole state, for all of our children in the whole state of New Mexico, because of our long-standing, unfortunately, poor performance in public education. And so we definitely need to begin educating our kids as soon as possible. And right now, the support for early childhood education within the state is almost non-existent.
So, getting past the technical aspects of this, what do you expect that impact would then be, that change? I mean, it might not sound like much, that 1.25%, but what would that actually result in dollars-wise? And then what that would be applied to, what do you expect to be the major impacts there?
Yeah, so as I said, that funding really is going to be geared, or bulk of it is really going to be geared toward early childhood education. And what that's going to allow is early childhood learning centers, Head Start programs are going to be fully funded. So right now, what happens with those sort of programs is they're funded to a limited basis, and as a result, what happens is there's only just a few programs, so there's always a very long waiting list if you could even get your kid in for early childhood education. And then the pay, actually, the wage and compensation for those teachers, educators that are taking care of and teaching our, youngest, most vulnerable, children are really paid at a substandard rate. So that's not a career that's very attractive, right, for folks. And then the other thing is in terms of reimbursements. So we have limited programs, and so I'm trying to help us understand. So then there's also limited then learning early childhood learning centers. And so anyway, so additional funding would allow for additional learning childhood centers, better wages and better pay for early childhood educators, and then just more opportunities and choices for families when they are looking to enroll their children into these sort of programs.
If you're just joining us, guest right now is Daisy Maldonado, Director of Empowerment Congress of Doña Ana County. You want to find out any more information about what we're talking about here, these issues, this Vote Yes for Kids campaign, two websites for you to visit: empowernm.org, that's as in Empower New Mexico, but empowernm.org, and Vote Yes for Kids NM.org. Again, Vote Yes for Kids, NM as in New Mexico.org, to find more information about this. So a couple of ideas then come to mind immediately as a response to this. One is that there have been a couple of other initiatives related to education lately, both secondary and collegiate, with the start of the New Mexico Actual College Fund, the guaranteed level of access to college and post-secondary education in general, and then of course within secondary and primary education itself here, the change in the compensation schedules for when it comes to New Mexico teachers. Those, of course, have happened both within the last year here, so fairly recent, and people may have heard about that. We've had some of our own audience discussing that as well. So when it comes to those issues, people who may be thinking, well, we've done a lot in this within the state of New Mexico already. It seems like this is more, and wondering what the difference is here and how this will go further. How do you describe that?
Yeah, so traditionally, again, thinking about how the fund works and how our education, how the New Mexico Public Education receives the funding is, again, it's really focused on K through 12. So we don't have any dedicated funding for early childhood education. So that's birth to age 5, right? Just before kindergarten. So basically preschool and Head Start. We don't have a funding formula within the state of New Mexico to fund those teachers or those, like I said, or those learning childhood centers. So this additional funding for K through 12 teachers is fantastic, and that's absolutely what we need. And now we just need to extend it out to so that teachers, and educators for our most youngest citizens are actually also can benefit from the expansion of that funding.
So in addition to that, a question always comes down is, okay, the funding formulas are very important there, and the impact then to taxpayers is often a question that comes up to this. So when we're talking about this change here and putting millions into new funding here, what is the amount that you're all estimating that if this change were to be approved would be a part of it, and then ultimately what the difference would be for the average individual looking at their tax bill, as often comes down to be very important for individual voters?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, Andrew, because this will not impact taxpayers at all. And again, the funding formula for our education system through the state of New Mexico was set up back when New Mexico was created as a state. And basically what this fund is like a savings account, right? And the money that gets put into the savings account comes from revenues from oil and gas, as well as other leases that the state leases out to private corporations and private businesses. So this actually doesn't impact any, taxpayer, any regular New Mexico citizen taxpayer. Doesn't come out of our pocket at all. But this is our money because it's our, it comes from our leasing out our state land. And since over the last 10 years, that fund has grown tremendously. In fact, it has grown by $10 billion, and today it's worth $24 billion. And so what this proposal would do is just take a little bit of money out of that fund to go to early childhood education. We're not getting rid of the fund. We're not, spending $20 billion of it. No, in fact, like we said, it was $1.5 billion, or $125 million rather.
Yeah, $125 million there. Yeah, the number, looking at the information out here on some of the estimations here. So that being the impact on it. So to talk further about this, as again, the specific time that this will be on the ballot, very important to keep in mind, will actually be part of the general November election, as opposed to what have just happened here on the Texas side of things, where there have been 2 elections this month, one of them being constitutional. This one for New Mexico, this and all the other constitutional issues at hand for this, again, land of enchantment, will be happening in November. But you all have coming up here a little bit more a little bit sooner than that. You're going to be having an event for information out there, and that'll be happening at the Sunland Park Sports Complex at 4700 McNutt Road, coming up on May 26th from 4 to 7 p.m., right?
Yes, that's correct. So this is, one of how we're launching the campaign here in the southern part of the state. And really inviting families and parents and actually other community members to come out and learn about the initiative itself and what does the ballot amendment mean, or I'm sorry, the constitutional amendment mean, and then how they can make that decision come November. And then we decided to host it actually at the sports complex. And, Southern Park is a small city, but it's pretty mighty, and, really trying to provide new services and grow in southern New Mexico. And so they have this new sportsplex that includes a skate park and a playground and a splash pad even. And so what we really wanted to do was invite families out to learn a little bit and then enjoy the park and then get some information about other nonprofits. And so the idea was just to be a fun afternoon where, taking something technical like this Constitution Amendment and sort of demystifying it and allowing families to enjoy their afternoon.
So again, that'll be happening on May 26th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Sunland Park Sports Complex at 4700 McNutt Road. So again, our guest right now has been Daisy Maldonado, Director with Empowerment Congress of Doña Ana County. 2 websites there to find more information about what we've been talking about today: empowernm.org. That's empower NM as in New Mexico.org, and vote yes for kids NM.org. Again, vote yes for kids NM.org. So Daisy, thank you very much for speaking with us today about all these issues, the details on it, when people can vote on it, and of course the event that you have coming up to speak further about it here today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate giving the opportunity, and I hope everyone can come out and learn and enjoy the park.
All right, again, thanks to Daisy for speaking with us there. That's going to take us through our next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll delve further into the whole impending end of Title 42 and with the impacts we are seeing here in this area. Some of the, again, state, local, and national responses all at head here, including congressional response from both of those representing on the Texas side of things. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso coming up here on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of comments coming in. We'll get to some of those here as well. Andrew Zignorant, Kathy Codry, Maria Kallman, John Browsleton, RJ, more tuning in, chiming in. We get to all that and a whole lot more after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser says now is not the time to extend the city manager's contract. Leeser vetoed a move by City Council that would have extended Tommy Gonzalez's contract through 2029 with the possibility of a pay raise that would have put his annual salary at above $450,000. Leeser spoke yesterday about his veto, saying he had too many questions about the contract and the proposed pay raise. Gonzalez still has 2 years left on his existing contract, which pays him about about $400,000 annually. A Republican congressman representing parts of far east El Paso says Title 42 is not going away next week. Title 42 is a public health order that allows for the rapid expulsion of migrants as a way to control the spread of COVID-19. It's set to expire on Monday, but Congressman Tony Gonzalez says he expects a federal judge will keep the order in place. Several states, including Texas, have sued to keep Title 42 in effect. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On Gateway Boulevard, northbound at the Ellerthorpe exit, an earlier accident has got the left turn lane blocked. Stay right. Cray Boulevard, northbound at Lockerbie, an injury accident with El Paso Fire on the scene. Northbound Dyer at Sanders Avenue, an injury accident. Take Diana as an alternate. And Schuster Avenue, police still working a crash there between Prospect and Mesa Street at Hawthorne. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We continue to deal with above average temperatures and increasing winds. And, well, those winds will die down some overnight, but they'll still remain to around 20 miles an hour out of the west. Now, as we get into Friday, look for an increase in winds yet again. As our next storm system nears the borderland, look for winds to increase throughout the day, bringing us once again a high fire weather danger.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa here, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram sales in April. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
The Memorial Day sales event starts now at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And there's never been a better time to get more for your old car, truck, or SUV. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we want it. So you can save big on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. 2022 Ram 1500 trucks with 0 APR for 60 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer full-size SUV with third row seating. 0 APR for 60 months. 0 payments for 90 days. Plus, we have aggressive lenders with great rates and terms, even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $16.67 per thousand financed on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the big stories and impacts on the borderland every weekday at 4. Brought to you in part by Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon, official hair and beard sponsor of the show. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Don't drive much. Don't pay much with pay-per-mile insurance from Allstate. Life is good when you're in the driver's seat. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today. This report is sponsored by Allstate.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get in on the show here, even at this point here. Opening up those phone lines up end of this segment, as we usually do. But also, we have those comments coming in, a lot of them over on the social media here going on right now. Michael Pettis, Calvin Williams, RJ, Andrew Zignerant, Kathy Codry, Maria Coleman, John Brazelton, and more. A lot of commentary on all these current situations here. RJ with our interview here again. Thanks to Daisy Maldonado with the Empowerment Congress of Doña Ana County, talking about these issues here. Important to know what's on the ballot, even if you find yourself wondering about it. As RJ says, sounds benign, which makes me suspicious, and I'm jaded. Not going to disagree with you on that point, but okay, even if you want to sound a little less jaded, treat it as a trust but verify. So again, we give it those websites, empowernm.org, and vote yes for Kids NM to see for yourself, see what's talking about. But yeah, I'm not exactly going to dissuade you from looking further into it here. So that's what you need to do. Please go ahead and do it here. More comments about Title 42 and some of those things coming on. Again, we had during the news update right there, the response from Tony Gonzalez. Dang it, I did it to myself here. I swore to myself I wouldn't, but we really got to sort out this T. Gonzalez situation. Too many high-powered people in this region that have that here. But yes, we are talking about Tony Gonzalez, the congressional representative for the Texas 23rd congressional district. He is saying that he's not, what he is saying, as you heard there, is that not too concerned about it going away, expecting it to be maybe 11th hour kept around, which is a strong possibility. I don't see that being not on the table, but I'm not sure that that's going to have much of an impact for what we're seeing immediately here right now. Because, well, if the call is still out there, the idea that this is ending and there's not going to be any more of this kind of activity happening, almost kind of damage done, I guess, with it being overwhelmed here. So that sure is one take on it. And I mean, there's again a level of reasonableness to his statements, but I'm not sure how much of an impact that's really going to have for us. I mean, this is getting reported on around the country here, among other things. A very interesting headline here from the New York Post, which isn't usually talk about us that much. El Paso, Texas readies emergencies declarations over immigrant surge. And even more locally here, El Paso Matters also reporting on here saying that with immigrant increase lurking, El Paso governments consider emergency declaration for federal aid. Among other things, El Paso's both the city council, county judge, Ricardo Samaniego, saying that they're potentially going to declare a disaster as soon as today over this whole situation. And because, among other things, Ruben Garcia, executive director of the Annunciation House, kind of not the only, but one of the lead agencies, NGOs anyway, involved in that level of response here, saying that 15 shelters or hospitality sites, as he calls them, quoting directly from El Paso Matters here, have that all of them are having difficulty keeping up with demand specifically, but that they are almost overwhelmed. So that was a little bit of what that news conference was yesterday, as held by El Paso's Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, speaking about that during our actual show here, so we weren't able to bring you immediate response with that. But here were some of the things she had to say about the level of response here, again, speaking as a part of what they had going on during that news conference, again, during the duration of our show yesterday. Get that clip here for you in just a second. But in the meantime, what we're looking at is that a lot talk about reimbursement and even potential for, further action on the part of federal authorities. So here's that first clip again, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar speaking yesterday. All right, we'll give that another shot here, maybe in the next segment. But in any case, one of the questions that was actually brought up from y'all yesterday, or in recent weeks here in days, was about, okay, what exactly is going on when it comes to, well, the ability to house them in other places. And that is something that Veronica Escobar did directly address here, speaking the coverage part of our news partners over there at KFox 14, saying that it is something that is not going to be possible, that this is something that was Fort Bliss is not going to be involved, that because that was a part of a federal response to a federal policy with those that town that was set up, the shanty town, basically, not a shanty town, tent town would be the more accurate phrase to use for it, when it came to when there was the Afghan refugee crisis going on at that point in time, and saying that that Fort Bliss will not be an option at this point here. But she did speak at length on the possibilities of reimbursement, and that now one of the calls has, of course, been for there to be, more local government involvement with these sites and with these shelters. In fact, that is something that specifically Ruben Garcia, again with Annunciation House, has been calling for himself, saying that some of these sites need to be taken over, because having stood up a number of them here, again, I have gotten the chance in previous years, not within the last 3 or so, that there are a lot of things going on here, among others, but gotten the chance to see them as they are stood up, so to speak, put forth and made, as we've had these previous temporary surges. But this one just feels different. It feels like we've got more of a concentrated, I mean, the weird thing is still the fact that it's happening right here in this region. Even those previous times, it was not a people arriving in this region, crossing the border right here and being processed where they arrived. It was often the central focus of the surge at that point was other points along the border, either South Texas or even points further west. And then they were being brought here, usually family units, actually, to be processed here through the underwhelmed facilities, and therefore the nonprofit community responding to that. So that's at least one key difference that we are looking at here as we are continuing to navigate this. So I think we're going to go ahead and take that next break here right now, deal with some of the technical issues we got going on here, because we want to play those clips for you, because being able to do so is important to get the context out of this. But we'll have a lot more conversation going on with this as well, because there's also some comments out there on the city manager contract that, more reasonable questions coming up there. Michael Pettis, one specific comment that I have heard swirling around lately, and I can at least give the official response very directly here. Michael Pettis saying that I heard that the city manager actually lives in California and quote unquote teleworks. And then further saying that John Brazelton saying that if I made over $400,000 per year, I definitely wouldn't live in El Paso. Glad to know that you won't let the door hit you on the way out, my dude. Louis Pinato saying that would not surprise me as much as finding out how much he's paid. That's, interestingly enough, was a very specific part of, well, before the mayor's veto, the news release coming out of the city of El Paso, because among other things, started off saying city council approved to authorize the mayor to execute an amendment to city manager Tommy Gonzalez's contract. That was the first paragraph, a quote from Gonzalez about his gratitude and the support he's received. But then here's the third paragraph, and I'm going to quote directly from it here. As with previous contracts, the city manager is required to maintain a residency in El Paso. Gonzalez and his wife have lived in El Paso since 2014, and there was a false claim stated during a recording of a recent newscast during which it was stated that the city manager does not live in El Paso. The city manager has and remains in compliance with the contract residency requirements since 2014. So that's just the official city response to it anyway. We'll get more into that here. Louis Pinato saying the news reports he's bought a home in Dallas. He's already got one foot out the door. Don't think that report is totally accurate there, because, well, before this point anyway, before the mayor's action as of yesterday, again, they had turned down that Frisco job, which is in the Dallas suburbs. So, that'll still be coming up here. So, again, this issue is by no means settled. And, well, with that veto now in place, the mayor saying, no, I will not be moving forward with that contract yet. There's, more to be done here. So we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we get to more of the comments, calls, and go ahead and open up those phone lines. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway Boulevard, northbound at the Ellerthorpe exit, earlier accident has got the left turn lane blocked. Stay right. Cray Boulevard, northbound at Lockerbie, an injury accident with El Paso Fire on the scene. Northbound Dyer at Sanders Avenue, an injury accident. Take Diana as an alternate. And Schuster Avenue, police still working a crash there between Prospect and Mesa Street at Hawthorne. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Kelly Blue Book. Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an official offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info. Answer some questions. Then get a no obligation offer to sell or trade it. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car. Schedule a time and drive away with confidence. For all of the its, kbb.com it.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton. And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean. So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads. It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free. Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
As a marketer, you want to reach everyone, adults, teens, millennials, but it's not like these groups all hang out in the same place, right? Actually wrong. They're all right here, listening to radio commercials just like this one. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM/FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Sun City Craft Beer Fest, powered by iHeartMedia, happens this Saturday and Sunday downtown El Paso at the Convention Center Plaza. Over 170 craft beers from the best local and national breweries, plus live music, food trucks, a giant game zone, Sunday Fun Day specials, and more. Tickets include 10 samples of the beer or cider of your choice and a collectible beer glass. Get hosted beers and a free meal in the Dead Beach Brewery VIP Lounge. Tickets and info at suncitycraftbeerfest.com. That's suncitycraftbeerfest.com.
Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of ways to get at the show. We do have that phone line open right now. Again, that number to do so. If you wanted to chime in that way, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Just still remember your touch tone numbers there. But we got a lot of other comments coming in the meantime here. RJ, Catherine Codry, Louis Panado, James Ratcliffe, pointing out that that contract, talking about the city manager, included a salary, as have many have pointed out, commensurate to that of Tony Fauci's. And I want to say the president. What is the president's salary these days? I need to look that up. Because, yeah, anything reaching that point does reach a interesting point of comparison here. But again, we will take those calls now. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Well over, actually, if I'm looking at my numbers right here. Jeez. Anyway, we'll get to that here in just more of a second here. But let's get to some of those calls right now. Again, if you want to get on the line here, maybe put on a brief hold, but we'll get to you here. Louis Panado saying, friend of the city manager, renting a room at the DeSoto Hotel. Not anymore, I'll tell you that, if that was the case. Let's get to those calls right now. Do have a call on the line here at the moment. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Oh, this is Eleanor Bush.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear us all right?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine. And I turned off my radio so you can hear me.
Excellent there. What's on your mind?
Well, I was really kind of down on our new mayor, on Mayor Leeser. And after he did vetoed, he has come up in my mind greatly.
I mean, yeah, no, I thought there was a continuing on there, but yeah, this has been the second veto that he has done, and I guess there is kind of a common thread that you could draw between them on the idea of essentially fiscal. The previous one was on issuance of bonds, and this one on questions about the level of compensation within the current, again, city manager's salary here. So again, not necessarily the biggest part of the platform of the mayor's previous most recent campaign, but of course it was present in it. So I mean, some seeing this as evidence of him following through with that is an interesting interpretation. Sounds like you agree with that idea.
I agree. Well, I'm not a, how do I say this? The city manager I have never really liked, to be real blunt with you.
Okay.
Because it seemed like he thought, oh, well, I can just do anything to the citizens of El Paso because I am from East Texas. Do you ever get that feeling?
I guess, well, okay, let me put it this way. When
he's such a good boy. But I really liked him when he was mayor before. I thought, and I was sorry about his cancer, but I don't listen to the radio much anymore because I liked Sheldon Dotson, and he just disappeared.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about some of the other news partners out there. Yeah, situations and replacements happen here, and I'm sure they'll talk about that further here. But let me say this. When the city manager first came to town, there was one quote that stuck out to me from him about, well, one of his ideas about how El Paso was working, because that was, again, not too long after that quality of life bond project there and all of those workings part of it. So one of the things he said that really did stick out to me is that I've never seen, and this is me paraphrasing here, I've never seen a city that is as interested in parks and quality of life over basic infrastructure as El Paso. And I've thought about that in a couple ways over the years because, again, I mean, that was a pretty significant bond at the time and sure did make a statement on priorities of El Paso and, basically what major investments were going to be made going forth. But the idea that a big city like El Paso, because we are still, despite all the talk about, growth and lack thereof.
We're still a town.
Yeah, there is that too. Yeah, a lot of mentality, I will say, is still part of a town.
Well, people still like people here.
That's
And
one
I
way
don't
to put
think
it.
they do in the other cities. I get that impression. I have lived here for so long. I don't know anything but El Paso anymore. So anyway, I just wanted to call and state that I was real pleased with the mayor, because I couldn't figure out why we had to pay. This is when I thought he was going to leave. Why we had to pay his salary if he was going to go someplace else. That was his prerogative to do that. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, that was a statement he made.
We were going to have to go ahead and pay him too. To me, that's a bait and switch.
I mean, okay, I'll say it to this way. It was baked into his salary from the beginning, but it does feel a little bit now that people are realizing it like wait, we did what?
Yeah, we did what? Exactly, Andrew. I listened to you on Saturday, so I know who you are.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate
Thank you
it.
for taking my call, and I do appreciate you giving me, not much relief. I still feel the way I did about Sheldon Dotson. I liked him. I don't know what happened. I'm sure something, because he always said he was going to retire in El Paso.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look into it, see if there's anything else we can say. I don't have anything concrete I can say on that. I know that there are often shakeups and moves around and some of the other things with our news partners over there, but anything that can be said, we'll be sure to pass along here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We got to take that next break right now, but coming out of the break, we got more calls on the line, more comments that have come in, and a whole lot more we will get to as we get into hour 2 here of our show today. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway North, northbound at the Ellerthorpe exit. A crash has got the left turn lane closed. McRae and Lockerbie, an injury accident there with paramedics on the scene. An injury accident northbound Dyer at Sanders. You could take Diana or Rushing alternates to get around that. And police still working an accident from earlier. Schuster Avenue, east of Prospect at Hawthorne. You could take Oregon or River Avenue as alternates. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa here, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in April. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
The Memorial Day sales event starts now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. And there's never been a better time to get more for your old car, truck, or SUV. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we want it. So you can save big on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. 2022 Ram 1500 trucks with 0 APR for 60 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer full-size SUV with third row seating. 0 APR for 60 months. 0 payments for 90 days. Plus, we have aggressive lenders with great rates and terms. Even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR, $16.67 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter.
News on the hour and the
shelterpetproject.org
half.
to
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeartRadio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Lawmakers are passing legislation aimed to help the nation's poorest people have access to baby formula. The Access to Baby Formula Act passed the House with only 9 lawmakers voting against, and it passed the Senate by unanimous consent. The bill looks to expand flexibilities from the pandemic era to the government's nutrition program for women, infants, and children. The Pentagon is sending Ukraine another big weapons shipment.
There will be 18 howitzers, 18 tactical vehicles, and 18 artillery tubes, and 3 AN TPQ-36 counter-artillery radars.
Spokesman John Kirby said the shipment cost $100 million. The U.S. has sent Ukraine roughly $4 billion worth of arms and equipment since the start of Russia's invasion in late February. A CDC panel is voting to approve a Pfizer COVID booster shot for kids 5 to 11. The CDC director will likely sign off on the panel's recommendations soon, meaning kids could start getting needles in arms as early as tomorrow. The FDA approved the booster shot earlier this week. Families in Texas with transgender kids might face child abuse investigations.
The move comes days after the Texas Supreme Court ruled that the state attorney general did not have the power to direct who would be investigated. The decision would be up to the foster care system. At least 9 investigations into families with transgender children have been launched since February. The ACLU has released a statement calling the move unfortunate and unlawful. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Wall Street is closing with stocks lower. As inflation concerns remain, investors continue to worry about the Federal Reserve's rate hikes to fight rising inflation, possibly causing a recession. Target saw its shares fall 5% today after dropping by 24% yesterday after it cited restrained consumer demand due to inflation. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The man accused of shooting and killing 10 people inside a Buffalo supermarket faced a judge today. Jennifer Pulsoni reports.
18-year-old Peyton Gendron appearing in Buffalo City Court dressed in an orange jumpsuit, accompanied by law enforcement. He stayed silent during the brief hearing, attended by some family members of the 10 people shot and killed at the Tops grocery store. Someone yelling out as he was led out of the courtroom,
"Peyton, you're a coward!"
A grand jury handing up a first-degree murder indictment against the teen, who remains held without bail, scheduled back in court in a few weeks, June 9th.
Ford is issuing 3 separate recalls totaling around 350,000 vehicles. The most pressing is for 39,000 Ford Expedition and Lincoln Navigator SUVs due to engine fires. The automaker says it has received 16 reports of an engine fire even when the vehicle was not running. For the first time, Wheel of Fortune is going to take a spin across America. Reporting from Georgia, here's Liz Kennedy.
Starting in September, a live version of the iconic game show will be touring 60 U.S. cities, including a stop in Atlanta at the Fox Theater on September 20th. Variety reports contestants will be able to spin the wheel and win up to $10,000 or trips. It's the first ever tour of the show, which launched in 1975 and is hosted by Pat Sajak alongside Vanna White.
Jennifer Lopez is coming out with a new documentary. Netflix has released the trailer from Halftime, and it's being called an intimate peek behind the curtain, revealing the grit and determination that makes J-Lo the icon she is, detailing her work prepping for the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show. The film looks at the second half of the star's life, giving fans a unique and personal look into the 52-year-old's music, acting, fashion, and cultural contributions. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bills. That's bills. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has your workplace covered with furniture and organizational items curated by Staples Work From Home Style Squad. Now get 25% off storage and filing products, chair mats, decor, and lighting with the purchase of a desk or office chair. In-store only. Offer ends 5/28. Staples, the working and learning store.
Comfort Keepers Las Cruces is now hiring. Call 575-521-4400.
Available now from iHeart, returning for Season 3, is The Restless Ones, an original podcast presented by T-Mobile for Business and iHeartRadio. Join me as I sit down for in-depth discussions with the people at the intersection of technology and business. You'll learn how each of these leaders is building a bridge to what's next and leveraging transformative technologies like 5G to create a more connected and meaningful future today. Listen to The Restless Ones on the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Want to know what I like best about high school sports? I love watching my son run on the field. I love seeing him smile when he high-fives his teammates. I love seeing his eyes light up when his team scores a goal. I love the fact that since he's been playing high school sports, he's making better decisions. And I love knowing that high school sports have never been safer. Why? Because coaches have more information than they've ever had. Training techniques are more sophisticated, and equipment has never been more advanced. Playing high school sports isn't just safe. it's still the best way to give your teenager a healthy head start in life. And that's something I really love.
This message about the value of high school sports is presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. All those places are just so much to say that we're in a lot of places where you can find us, see what's going on, stay informed, and tune in, chime in, call in if you want to. Because most of those places, Twitter is more of a DM kind of thing, but you can still send us messages. But all the rest of them go into the stream with under the video there. So if you also want to call in, we have that phone line open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Calls coming in there. I'll get to those here back in just a second. Maria, comment on the whole situation leading up to the end of Title 42. Again, there are some mixed expectations. But let's just say whatever, so lightning has been sown, we seem to be reaping the whirlwind right now. Maria Coleman saying that less than a month ago, Samaniego and Escobar touted our readiness. El Paso was prepared to process 18,000 per day. It's evident after soliciting migrants across, El Paso's neither the funding or facilities to house. I want to say that 18,000, I remember that same figure. I want to say that was more in reference to the entirety of the border, not just El Paso. And I want to say that was also capacity to house to a certain extent. So I think that whatever they were expecting, we have been further outstripped by that, but don't think that was just in our area. John Browselton saying that let the 3 people who work at the Greyhound bus station take care of them. Yeah, that's a plan. I'm not going to use another adjective like good with it, but well, a lot more comments coming in there as well. RJ, unimpressed with the Biden administration, calling it declaring economic war by killing energy, collapsing the border, and destroying the petrodollar. Saying the ruble is now stronger than the dollar. Not entirely sure about that unless you're referring to petro implications anyway. But I'm still going to prefer being here than being in Russia at the moment, despite there being issues, certainly here. Michael Powder's asking, what are a list of Gonzalez's accomplishments? Well, since you ask, no, I'm not going to read the whole release from the city, but one specific point that came right after that residency requirement, actually, interesting order of listing here, but what this release came out earlier this week, technically started the week here at this point, right after that city council special meeting vote, saying that under Gonzalez's leadership, the city of El Paso has so far achieved $227 million in cost savings. He has further strengthened El Paso's financial stability by eliminating a $7.8 million general fund deficit in 2014, eliminating a $27 million operating deficit in mass transit department, eliminating an annual $1 million operating deficit at the city golf course, and goes on with just some of the other major numbers here, $73 million, state taxes, maintaining the city's AA financial rating. So, since you asked, that is at least from the most recent city released there. Answer that question among many other things, including awards that he has been given, such as the National Malcolm Baldrige Foundation E. David Sprong Lifetime Leadership Achievement Award. That's a mouthful. As well as other things, including his, it ends up being kind of a mini resume. I'm honestly going to be honest with you here. So, I mean, there's some things that have been talked about it, but again, I think the real optic issue here is that the city manager side of government is the more intractable side of it. It's not very transparent. And I don't mean this necessarily in an obfuscated kind of way, but, well, they're not elected officials. They don't have the same kind of impetus and compunction to make sure that every bit of their business is being known as, well, the professional side of it. There is city staff, of course, that is very much focused on putting out there the whole Your City in 5 and other releases that come out here, and we talk about them as they become relevant to our conversation from time to time. But, again, just a bit of a difference there. So, literally just in answering your question here, but a lot more about Catherine Codry asking a little bit earlier, what about all the charter flights out of El Paso on a daily basis at the expense of taxpayers to fly them about the country? So we're going to play some of those clips from Escobar a little bit later. Got those up and working here now. Also, those that are chiming in and liking over on the page, we do appreciate that. Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. RJ pointing out that if the dollar loses its reserve currency status in the world, we can become Venezuela. I mean, we have enjoyed quite a special position in the global economic order because of that global reserve currency status. And that's kind of the problem with what all the sanctions happen to Russia are. Not to get too far afield here, but just to put a pin in that, because that kind of, well, currency warfare, essentially what was done, removing them from the banking system, that threat is only as good as you follow through with it, of course. But if you use it, it's one of those tools that becomes less useful because it may have actually accelerated the loss of world reserve status, because now everyone is seeing what could have been done and are therefore taking their own steps to make sure they would be less impacted by it around the world here. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Is there any place that you can actually listen to the full news conference that Veronica Escobar had? I mean, I've looked all over the place. I've got the first 6 minutes of what she said and everything, but the full news conference is not to be found anywhere.
You know what? I am not going to be 100% sure on that. I know it was sent out to a full copy of it to local news media in town for that purpose here, but in terms of like publicly posted one, because like I'm not going to be able to post up the whole thing here. We got a couple clips we'll bring from that, but I will have to look to see if it was actually, because it was streamed, but actually posted anywhere. I am not entirely sure, I will admit.
Well, one of the things that I did pick up on, she did say, "I'm grateful to the Biden administration for making a commitment to reimburse communities like ours for those financial outlays, and that local governments and non-governmental organizations can be reimbursed," she explained. I'd like to know where this money's coming from.
That is a good question, and I think that is actually specifically one of the quotes we had pinpointed here that we'll get into playing here in the next segment, because I want to, of course, leave the room for the calls here. But yeah, the question about where's this money coming from, if it's coming from either related to ARPA or the American Recovery Plan Act, whether it's coming out of those funds or just general, if they're doing more expenditures from the federal agencies that are supposed to be focused on this, that is a decent question to be asked. I will fully agree with you there.
You believe that I'm becoming very convinced that Veronica Escobar is totally ignorant about economics and the reasons for inflation, and that she is a real believer in modern monetary theory. Let's just go ahead and, we need a couple of extra $100 million or another $1 billion to take care of these people coming across the border. No problem. Let's just print up the money.
I see what you're getting at there, and the idea of it. Can't comment entirely about if that is the belief of the Congresswoman, but I will say that if that were to be the case, if that was being the funding source here, and it wasn't even coming out of a budget, I can imagine, even in these times with a lot of concerns, and there even being plummets of the approval rating of the current administration, much of a bigger scandal, because that's not even just, I know there have been a lot of concerns about the expansion of the money supply, the impact it's had on inflation and all that good stuff here, but even just completely circumventing budget, as many court cases as there have been involved with the shifting of budgets from one place to another, particularly in the previous administration, those cases being brought up, the idea of there just being, forget it, we'll just make more money without even having a budget with it. As much as has been going on already, I cannot imagine much of a bigger scandal that doesn't practically involve nukes, if that were to be what's happening.
Yeah, and also one of the things she said that she and the El Paso Border Patrol Chief Gloria Chavez told El Paso city leaders that Fort Bliss will not be an option to help house migrants.
Correct.
So we're supposed to set up tent cities or hotels for these people. I mean, where are they going to be set on the street like they in 2019? I remember a whole bunch of them just kind of wandering around the El Paso area.
Happening in the Christmas season at that point.
These people are not from just from South America. They're coming from from places like Syria and Ukraine and all these places that are that really can have a lot of really bad people coming across, and they're going to be occupying our city. So, what is her answer to making us safe?
So, partially to your answer there, not to the full one here, but I can answer in part that, again, the facilities I have had the chance to visit and see what's going on in them, the hospitality sites, as again, the Annunciation House and related agencies tend to put it here, largely within churches here in El Paso, using either their, rectory areas or in some cases, the actual main body of the church here, them donating the space to do that. Because, again, there's a difference here in between what those federal facilities, what we're talking about on Fort Bliss, and the focus of this here are, like those Afghan refugee camps. Those were meant for essential housing until next step kind of thing. Whereas the major focus that has been in place by the local nonprofit community on this has been largely on a keep moving kind of standpoint of get them immediate services, address immediate needs, and get them usually, for the most part, transportation out of this area. That is the vast majority of experiences I've seen directly, and what I still understand is being reported on now. So I guess that's part of the difference there in answer to part of your question. And referring to what happened in the previous end of the previous decade here, which sounds weird to say, but did indeed happen, where there were people. I mean, this is similarity to what happened in the previous administration when ICE, CBP, federal authorities supposed to be in charge of these situations were just dropping people off the streets. I mean, there was a similar-ish outcry, even if the circumstances surrounding it are a bit different here, because that was not necessarily an arrival in this area. I think it was starting to be at that point in time, if I'm remembering the time frame correctly, but it was, again, the local response was ramped up here. So I think that there is very much, regardless of the political involved with it, questions about how do you manage people, because no one wants that circumstance of people wandering the streets without any resources or recourse, because, that sounds pretty awful any way you slice it, but that has been the focus of the nonprofit community anyway.
Yeah, and the NGOs are already being overwhelmed with 100, 150 people. What's going to happen when there are 1,000 people per day coming through? I mean, you've got how many ports of entry do we have in the United States? Major ports of entry, about 6 or 7 of them, and one of them happens to be El Paso. So if we're talking 18,000 divided by 7, that seems to be about maybe $2,500, $2,500 for people a day coming through our border. And where are we going to put all these people?
So you bring up a valid point there. To make it clear, this was in addition to what's already being processed. So it wasn't that there was 100 people showing up and that was the number for that day and there was no ability to handle it. This was the excess. So that 100 was already the excess of they've got 15 hospitality sites, accounting for guesstimation at this point, with having firm numbers in front of me, between, a couple dozen to maybe 100 per site. There is capacity already, but that amount is what is outstripping what has already been set up.
Yeah, and get rid of Title 42. Now we've got, again, 2,000, 2,500 people a day coming into El Paso, Texas, that are going to be unvetted, criminals, a lot of them criminals, people that are going to be doing bad things. This is a disaster. And it's all brought about by this wonderful individual called Veronica Escobar and the Biden administration. Thank you.
Yep, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call there. I mean, the local response to this is going to be a pretty key one, if only just for our local area. But given that we seem to have found ourselves as a locus and the eye of the storm, so to speak, without the calmness necessary, I think a lot of eyes are going to continue to be on this region, on how the response is managed. So there are a lot of possibilities here with federal resources, facilities anyway, being out of the question, how exactly local agencies are going to continue to manage the amount and the personnel load that we are dealing with here. What the reimbursement is, Maria Coleman saying that reimbursement will be from the taxpayers. El Paso will not receive full reimbursement, I think was the phrase cut off there. Some other comments coming in as well. Calvin Williams saying that there are pallets of money out there, but that also as a suggestion, let's sell all the drugs we confiscate from Mexico to Canada to pay our way out of this debt. I wonder what Canada will have to say about that, but we got to get into that a whole lot more. Got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to that more of the comments, calls, all that good stuff. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash is blocking the center and the left lane on North Desert Boulevard, northbound at North Pass Boulevard. Expect delays. Gateway Boulevard, northbound at Ellerthorpe. An earlier accident still has police on the scene. Left turn lanes blocked. Joe Battle Boulevard, northbound at Montwood. An accident reported. And an injury accident, McCrae Boulevard, northbound at Lockerbie Avenue. Edgemere or Wedgwood could be your alternates there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. This spring, you can share your own observations about nature with scientists and play a critical role in scientific discovery by adding to their data collection. Discover more about citizen science programs such as monitoring weather, observing plants and animals, and more. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Make the right choice for your house when it comes to windows and doors. The Window Depot provides over 1,000 in-stock vinyl windows, interior and exterior doors, plus all the supplies you'll need for installation and trim to complete the job, all at the lowest prices in town. Visit thewindowdepot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindowdepot.com. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
PaidForByGovMint.com. Have you heard? The United States Mint has issued the Morgan Silver Dollar for the first time in 100 years. Not only that, but they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 175,000 legal tender silver dollars were issued. These Morgan Silver Dollars are brand new, bright and shiny legal tender coins minted by the iconic Philadelphia Mint. Just call 1-800-221-1215 and you are guaranteed a new 99.9% pure silver Morgan dollar. The first time in history this has happened. But with limited quantities, you must call now to order. To learn more, call 1-800-221-1215. If you order now, you will receive a free collector bonus, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-221-1215 now to secure your new Morgan Silver Dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-221-1215.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at the show. We've, of course, got those phone lines open right now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk is where you can get at us. And those leaving those reacts, we do appreciate. Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monaco Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez over on the Facebook page. It's still basically the primary page until further notice anyway, because that's where the Skeptic Squad lives and the Thunderdome comments come in. And boy, is it going on today. Also over from the YouTube, that's probably our second most active here. RJ saying, feels like they're doing this on purpose, expecting food inflation in the third and fourth quarter, going to climb with the price of fuel, the stuff in the trucks. Washington and Oregon are adjusting their gas pumps for $10 a gallon gas. I mean, I don't live in those places for a variety of reasons, but I have seen some predictions from more or less credible people, anyway, that the price of gas could see further skyrocketing, even doubling. Though that sounds a little bit out of hand even there. John Brazelton saying that when the illegal invasion starts to overload the local do-gooder network, politicians will have to react. Interesting phrasing there, but essentially that is what is happening. That the current level of response we're seeing in this region is, I mean, that's the Association House Network, as I refer to it. There's a lot of other individual organizations, some of which we have talked with in the past in this program, involved in doing that kind of work, and that's essentially where we're at. They are overwhelmed, and that's why, among other things, these potential local emergency disaster declarations are being considered here. So a lot more to get to there, a lot more comments coming in, and we'll talk a lot bit further about it. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We have Frankie and Messia on the line here with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Oh boy, hot diggity dog. I can't get over it. I am just laughing my rear end off. Let me tell you, all of a sudden, the Republicans, conservatives, the whole stick of them, are all up in arms because this guy in Pennsylvania, some guy by the name of Maraschino, somebody, is almost getting ready to win the governorship. And they're all in a tizzy. Oh, my goodness. He's a whack job. He is going to be ruined come the general election. Well, guess what, you morons? You poke the bear. You stick your hand in a rattlesnake nest. You get bit and you get mauled. What did you expect to happen, you bored morons? That's what you get for putting up with this kind of stupid nonsense for crying out loud. I'm laughing my derriere off. That's French, by the way. That's what I want to say.
I understand, the French reference there. I actually have seen a little bit on that. I tend to focus on a lot of the things going on in our area, of course, but what's going on there, and as I mentioned here, as Ian Grimm points out, tomorrow is the last day of early voting here on the Texas side of things. Make sure to go vote. It is your voice here. I've seen what you're talking about there with that, Pennsylvania governor's election, and I'm not quite sure that's the same take I've been hearing, the one that you're bringing up there. But let's just say when we're looking at the midterm elections here, that there is still very much, I think, a strong possibility, unless there is some serious action on the part of both, local and national Democrats, if they want to hold on to the majority. I've heard some probably overly optimistic assumptions that there might have been some pickups for some areas. I am, particularly in the Senate, I'm not totally reading the same kind of analysis here, but I guess that's important to you. Well, more power to you.
Well, I'm just saying, when you get these folks get out there, they've been pushing and pushing the most wackiest stuff ever. Now, all of a sudden, in a sense, they caught the car. Now, what are you going to do with it? That's my point. Yeah, you got the midterms, you got this, you got that. I'm just saying, they put forward the most nonsensical kind of ignoramuses, and then they get all in a tizzy and all bent out of shape. Oh, my goodness, how did this happen? Look in the mirror, you morons. That's how it happened. That's what I want to say.
All right. Well, thank you for the point of the call there. Do appreciate it. I guess just my general idea is that I'm not, again, the takes I'm more seeing on the, I believe you're referring to Doug Mastriano, I think Maraschino, if you want to go with that here, shows that there might be more of the MAGA persuasion still alive and well within other national politics here. So you're saying that this means that they're, and meaning that the former president still has a pretty strong hold on, the national conservative movement here. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone else there thinks about that. Some comments coming in on the idea of missing lithium pills. If you want to chime in, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Get a little bit more into Friday territory there, but we'll certainly get into it further. I mean, I guess we are in the second half of the second hour of the show here. So let's go back to those phone lines again. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Jerry in Northwest here on the line with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Sure.
The federal government does not want local or state law enforcement to interfere with migration, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have people coming across the border in mass numbers, and then they get into our communities and they cause havoc, they start robbing people and such like that, or holding up businesses, then they are arrested. Is our local community and everything going to be reimbursed for all that effort and necessity to go ahead and fix the problem? And will they honor the laws of, will the federal government honor the laws of the state and the local communities to have those individuals transported back to their nation?
So, okay, in short answer, I mean, to my understanding, what is essentially, if we're talking about local law enforcement getting involved with, like I said, kind of federal immigration efforts, well, it seems to have been worked on in the past is that, well, if there's some reason they're getting picked up, particularly for illegal activities you're referencing there, they will then, federal authorities usually ask for them to be held until they can come and, well, get them essentially, which does then raise further questions about if we're running out of space, particularly within actual holding facilities beyond just, the hospitality centers, which we have been talking about. The jail gets full up. What do we do then? That's a very relevant question to ask, and one that I don't think has been particularly addressed here. But in terms of reimbursement, I'm not necessarily sure of that. There have been, in some ways, I want to say, not exactly Operation Stone Garden, but along those lines kind of efforts for there to be essentially cost sharing, I think is what it really comes down to. But that's another good question, and one that I don't believe has really been addressed by some of these recent news conferences and such here. What is their role? Because most of the role and discussion has been on, well, what happens with the general population aspect of this, dealing with people being released from otherwise federal holding at the meantime.
Okay, one of the assets that are available, as I understand, the EPISD has somewhere between 5 and 7 abandoned schools.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how much it would take to get electricity and water running and make sure that they're safe enough to house people, but that is one of the assets that I've seen in your area that could be help effect this and mitigate some of the problems with people just walking around the street and sleeping in doorways and such. Us becoming San Francisco, basically.
It's an interesting concept there. According to El Paso Inc., actually, in this most recent edition, 20 properties have been declared as surplus by EPISD. Not always active schools, not always inactive schools, and some of them are just properties that are going unused. But that is an interesting potential. I don't know if that's been at all explored. I haven't heard anyone bring it up in any case, but that's an interesting potential there. The only thing I can think of that has happened at all similarly is, well, essentially what Governor Greg Abbott had been doing with the state level, the Operation Lone Star efforts, with basically repurposing some jails and either, shipping the current residents out to other facilities and then, or reactivating otherwise dormant ones to be purposed towards that. That's what the closest I can think of that's happened, at least within the state anyway. Don't know if anything on this level of what you're suggesting has, again, even been considered.
Okay. One last thing, Frankie, lay off the wine before you make your calls. Thank you, Andrew. Have a good day.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there as well. That's going to take us to the break right now. We got more calls, more comments, more questions coming in here. And let's just say the general principle is that, yeah, we usually let people speak a piece here, and then, well, we talk about it here. So nothing should ever be construed as supporting any position. If I make my opinions clear, you'll know about it. Don't worry. But we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, more calls, more comments, all that good stuff on the line. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call if you want to chime in yourself, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Speaking of opinions and the ones that I hold near and dear, taking good care of yourself is pretty important. That can look in a lot of different ways, whether it's eating right, trying to get rid of that COVID-15 anyway, I'm still working on, but then also making sure that you look good, feel good, love the skin you're in kind of concept, but more specifically, trusting good grooming because, I mean, even just if it's not for other people, feeling good about yourself and how you look and feeling well taken care of can make a wealth of difference in your day. So who I trust with all the hair on my head is definitely our guys over at Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. They've got a great list of services you can find on their website, gentsrepublic.com. That's again, GENTSrepublic.com, or just give them a call and ask them what they've got and when you can schedule your appointment by calling 915-532-3000. That's 915-532-3000. And you really deserve to get the special man in your life to feel like a king for a day. Don't forget Father's Day is right around the corner. So really get him the package that he wants. Expert hair and beard grooming with the arts of barbering, meshed with the services of a modern salon and spa, plus the atmosphere of your favorite watering hole. Again, gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTSrepublic.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser says now is not the time to extend the city manager's contract. Leeser vetoed a move by City Council that would have extended Tommy Gonzalez's contract through 2029 with the possibility of a pay raise that would have put his annual salary at above $450,000. Leeser spoke yesterday about his veto, saying he had too many questions about the contract and the proposed pay raise. Gonzalez still has 2 years left on his existing contract, which pays him about $400,000 annually. A Republican congressman representing parts of Far East El Paso says Title 42 is not going away next week. Title 42 is a public health order that allows for the rapid expulsion of migrants as a way to control the spread of COVID-19. It's set to expire on Monday, but Congressman Tony Gonzalez says he expects a federal judge will keep the order in place. Several states, including Texas, have sued to keep Title 42 in effect. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Gateway Boulevard, north of the city, northbound at the Texas-New Mexico state line. All northbound lanes are closed due to a crash. You can expect delays there. Things are looking better on North Desert Boulevard, northbound at North Pass. That earlier crash has the right lane blocked, but the center and left lanes are back open. And we've got an injury accident in Alameda Avenue, westbound at Delta Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We continue to deal with above average temperatures and increasing winds. And, well, those winds will die down some overnight, but they'll still remain to around 20 miles an hour out of the west. Now, as we get into Friday, look for an increase in winds yet again. As our next storm system nears the borderland, look for winds to increase throughout the day, bringing us once again a high fire weather danger.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Quesada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, Old West collectibles, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com.
There's no guidebook to adopting a teen, but that's okay because you don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Go to adoptuskids.org to learn more about how to be the perfect parent to teens in foster care. Sponsored by Ad Council. This report is sponsored by the Ad Council.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, and joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Find our other under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those. Here, and comments are often interesting here. RJ saying on sale now, Drunk Frankie / English Dictionary, drinking while studying recommended here. I often feel better after a few myself, I will admit here. Fred Marquez with an interesting comment that I'm willing to address here, that why does the host lose total control of his show and allow this to see a Frankie to go all crazy and call people names with his blabbering imbecilic calls? I've never heard conservatives talk that way on this show here. Well, let's just say that free speech can often be a double-edged sword. If you want to say what you want to, that's a great thing. But let's just say that someone saying that they don't like you is not necessarily you being attacked. It's someone responding back. And interesting that you say using names yourself there when referring to someone else for using names here. Point is that putting the whole name-calling genie back in the bottle is, I think that ship sailed a long time ago, if you want to be specific on that part. And the idea of there being, I would love the idea of greater decorum. There are specific words you cannot say on this show. And if you have any questions about those, feel free to, well, go revisit the great works of George Carlin. He does quite a bit on the piece, which actually ends up being the case law, believe it or not, in this. Literally, it's a strange confluence that the guy doing the story, doing the bit about what swear words you can't say on TV ends up becoming the case law for the swear words you can't say on TV or radio in this case. So, yeah, that's, again, you're entitled to your opinion on it, but that's also kind of the point that we deal with a lot of opinions on here. It's a call-in show. So, sure, we have specific things we focus on during the week. And again, as I mentioned, we're getting a little bit more into Friday territory, but don't worry, still perfectly in control of the show here. We're not being invaded by rabid monkeys flinging anything. Anyway, getting back to the calls right now. We do have Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, do you think the media is totally objective, including your station, or do you think it leans left? And if so, how far, what percentage-wise do you think it leans left?
I think we're getting a little bit of interference there, but I think I took your question as, do you feel the media is totally objective, including this station, and if so or not, what percentage there is? Simple answer, no, because, I will fully and freely admit I've got my own biases. I try to confront them as much as possible, but also, we deal with a bit more opinion on this program here, and, well, most of our talk show hosts, we do have the news segments, but those are also then separate a bit from, well, the rest of our programs here. So I call my shots. I don't always say, like, well, that's always up for you to decide, because I got certain things that I'm just not even willing to quibble about, and I make no secret about that here. So total objective truth? Yeah, not exactly. If you want to talk about other outlets here, the ones that are supposed to be the ones, arbiters of truth, that kind of idea, honestly, I'm not trying to sidestep your question, but I do think it's the wrong question to ask, because if you're just asking about, okay, what are these people putting out, the whole both sides argument, I got to say, I don't think news was ever meant to be, and here are all of the viewpoints on this, make your own decision. There's a tradition, I guess you could call it, within the frame and field of journalism called muckraking. One of the more famous examples of course, being Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, that did a whole lot of revealing stuff, that's the phrase I'm going to use, but not the word I want to, about meatpacking at that turn of the century time when it came out, and really changed people's opinions and got things changed here. So the idea of just being of the idea of it just being something that is, well, make your own decision. These meatpack owners say that they don't have human flesh in their food, but these advocates say they do. The truth may lie somewhere in between. Like, we don't do that on this program either, because sure, there might be some things where there's difference of opinions. You can come to your own conclusion kind of thing. There are also some things that I'm again, not willing to even be up for debate, because it's not truly a debatable concept, such as, inviolable human rights, my rights as a human being and as a citizen of this country, and the rights I have to do and possess certain things, as well as, well, again, basic like hygiene and human decency when it comes to things that you're buying and prepared for. So that is, I think, something that we have missed more on. So the truly, investigative kind of gets there, which is why one of the reasons we talk about it. But okay, again, it wasn't intending to sidestep your question, but that's just one thing that gets me. But so to the idea of there being total objective truth, I'll be honest with you, I don't think any outlet totally does it, because we are also humans, and humans are by their very nature flawed and foibled. I will say that there are some outlets that tend to be more in the middle, or more in the ability to just say, we're just reporting the facts and that's all of it, tend to be some of the honestly bigger organizations. And I don't mean necessarily big in size or actual like viewership or readership, but those that are encompassing the most topics, such as when we get to your Reuters, your AP, those kind of things. They tend to be more that way, though of course there are individual quibbles that can be made with some of these specific issues here. But no, I'm not going to make any pretense that this is a totally objective fact station. I want to say that when I've made reference into the past of doing fact-based arguments, I got some feedback on that negatively. But well, let's just say knowing what biases are, being able to better analyze them for yourself and understand where it's coming from is probably one of the key skills for the 21st century for the active and informed citizen, and one that is difficult to go through. And as Kevin Williams often does, putting it very succinctly, all generalizations are incorrect, including this one here. Yeah, a lot of good commentary on that. Let's get to at least one more quick call before we get to the end of the show here. We do have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Kevin.
Hey there,
Kevin.
Hey there, Kevin. What's on your mind?
Well, I heard this talk about the migrants piling up here and where are we going to put them and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when I was in the Army and also later on vacation, Switzerland does not let anyone into their country without the proper documents, and they just turn them away. I mean, they're not babysitting them. They're not giving them free benefits and things like that. They just turn them away. I don't know how it is today, but that's how it was not too long ago. And I'm just wondering, why can't we do that? Do we have an obligation to take care of people who just show up on the border? I'm not trying to be naive. I'm not trying to be snarky. I just want the information.
I mean, I take what you're meaning there. Okay, so strict answer to your question there, besides geographical differences between the U.S. and Switzerland, Switzerland has a very good geography to allow them to have incredibly strict controls here, and also a very different, I mean, even when you look at the rest of Europe, they have very different governance going on there and the way they think about it. To your more legal-based question there, and the answer to that is that the U.S. has signed on to certain, particularly asylum laws, and the idea of that being here. So honestly, most of the people being released that are being still, while it's still in effect, turned around by Title 42, end up falling into that asylum-seeking class. So there are sets of laws, and I will almost 90%, without knowing it for sure, I'm going to be 90% certain that Switzerland has not signed on to that, because that's just not the kind of thing that they do here. So that is one main legal difference, because I will say that even as Title 42 was supposed to be this kind of concrete, impermeable barrier, has become increasingly permeable. I want to say the last stat I heard is that about 40% of encounters that happened within the last month were turned around. So leaving about that 60% question mark about, okay, if Title 42 is still in place, what is going on with that? So, yeah, there are definitely challenges to the way even the law is being implemented now, but just the strict basis of it is, that asylum conventions that the U.S. has signed on to is going to be the major part of even those who are being released in El Paso that we have talked about as being a serious issue. That is what that falls under.
Well, thank you very much. That clarifies it for me. I appreciate it.
No, sure thing. Thank you very much. Appreciate the point there, because getting clarifications on this, I'm sure, may hopefully help someone else as well. So appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
And again, obviously, Switzerland, they got some great geography for not having anyone mess with them. I've seen some great documentaries about how they were willing and able to blow up basically all entries and exits into the country here. So, sure, if you want to go that way, that's one way you can. U.S. does not have that same kind of, I mean, heck, look at, besides the Rio Grande, which isn't that grand sometimes, we don't exactly have that same kind of just terrain to deal with. I mean, Mount Cristo Rey is one thing, but that's not the rest of the border, of course, here. So, some things to go into. A lot of comments coming in on all of that here. Calvin Williams saying that if I was to run my show exactly the way he wants it, he'd be the only one listening. Sounds like a Biden business plan. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I mean, we take on a lot of opinions and we try to deal with them as fairly as possible, but we still get some interesting ones here. Maria Coleman saying, I'm hoping that more reasonable heads prevail, that migrants will not attempt to bring infants and young children across the desert. Temperatures make them more vulnerable to dehydration or even death. Yeah, that is one of the most tragic situations. I mean, just think about locally. What has been one of the biggest outcries to the whole human smuggling situation was when those toddlers were dropped over the fence. That is criminal in ways that I can't describe without using words I can't use on radio. So, yeah, the idea of that being allowed to continue and going through here, there's just so much more that I want to say about that here. Calvin Williams saying we also need to go by the old definition of asylum. Decent other idea here. Monica Cervantes appreciating the boost as well. But tell you what, we got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll set up Free for All Friday here. Tell you what we got coming up for you further on the show and a whole lot more. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Don't forget about those other ways to chime in on the show, particularly if you run out of time during this part of it. Again, that talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. We do have some giveaways coming, so stay tuned. More details on that, all that coming up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway Boulevard, northbound at the Texas-New Mexico state line, a crash there has closed all main lanes. Northbound main lanes are closed due to that accident. Gateway Boulevard, southbound at Altura, a crash there is blocking the right lane, and a crash is blocking the right lane on North Desert Boulevard, northbound at North Pass. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Get this. Right now, Kohl's has the lowest prices of the season, and I just saved big. I got my kids Jumping Beans must-haves for under $5. Found myself some tees and tank tops for $5.99, and got 60% off patio furniture. The best part? I didn't need any coupons. I earned Kohl's Cash, and I got everything with free store pickup. So yeah, you could say today was a good day. Select styles ends May 22nd. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
If you work remote, Staples has you covered.
A storage cabinet that I can roll out of the way on weekends?
Staples has you covered with stylish and functional home office furniture and decor curated by Staples Work From Home Style Squad. And now, enter the Staples Find Your Work From Home Style sweepstakes to win a home office makeover. Explore solutions for your workspace at Staples. See staplesconnect.com/findyourWFH style for rules and details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Open to legal residents of the 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 and older. N67.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may have been doing so. Coming up on the end of the program here, a lot of commentary, a lot of stuff going on, just a whole lot of talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland and a bit beyond. Again, we do have Friday on deck for us tomorrow, if you're at all familiar for any reason, because we do have some people tune into the show from time to time that may not be just totally familiar with the idea of what we do on Fridays. We just don't totally throw out the rule book. Those deadly words are still deadly, but we'll take on any subject tomorrow on the program as we do declare Free for All Friday with open lines throughout the program here. So we're doing that the entire times here. RJ asking if I'm giving away an all-electric smart car that Mack Trucks Love Tornadoes trailers. Stop being a tease. Listen, just make sure you got the iHeartRadio app is all I'm going to say. And you also asked about a trip to Vegas yesterday. I can conclusively say it's neither of those, but you'll still be pretty happy about it, I am sure. So just make sure you got the iHeartRadio app and you'll be good to go there and get ready for maybe a good practice for those talkback calls. Again, the way to do that ahead of our show tomorrow will actually just be when you're looking at for the page, when you're looking for the station here. If you can hear us looking at the pages we got up on screen for you right now, just look for that red button with the microphone on it. Click on that or tap on it on your smart device. You will be able to leave us a message, and that'll be a very important component of what we got coming up here. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, some of the other things, some of those, lack of a better term, infrastructure and trade transit travel, those issues and how that continues affecting it, because even the news updates all around us here today, another big story we haven't even touched on, that whole baby formula thing. So that's just some of the issues swirling around in the background here. So we'll get to all that and more as we continue our mission to talk about the things here in the borderland here on Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So again, we got those talkback calls. The pound 250 feature is still available if that's your preferred way of doing it, because that just requires a smartphone to use as opposed to any other kind of device here. But we got a whole lot more, and we'll keep talking about these things. As a final reminder, remember to go out and vote. Early voting ends tomorrow, and then that means you only got Tuesday to go out and do it. So just make your time in your day. It's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. a lot of places, but if you got any questions about where you can go to do so, epcountyvotes.com. Haven't done it yet myself, planning on slipping in before I go to work tomorrow. So I'm not going to say if I can do it, you can do it, but you should strongly consider it regardless there. So that's going to do it for our program here today. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, I'm not in it for the accolades, but knowing that it's working for some out there does make it that much a little bit easier. You all really do help make it show what it is with all of the questions, comments, concerns, all that good stuff here. So stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway Boulevard, northbound at the Texas-New Mexico state line, a crash there has closed all main lanes. Northbound main lanes are closed due to that accident. Gateway Boulevard, southbound at Altura, a crash there is blocking the right lane, and a crash is blocking the right lane on North Desert Boulevard, northbound at North Pass. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa here, General Manager of Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram sales in April. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
The Memorial Day sales event starts now at Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And there's never been a better time to get more for your old car, truck, or SUV. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we want it, so you can save big on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. 2022 Ram 1500 trucks with 0 APR for 60 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer full-size SUV with third row seating. 0 APR for 60 months. 0 payments for 90 days. Plus, we have aggressive lenders with great rates